This is Contestants Not Appearing on Stage, a weekly podcast for game show enthusiasts. Episode number 16, March Sadness, recorded March 25th, 2016. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Contestants Not Appearing on Stage. Thank you for joining us. My name is Torgo, and here are my co-hosts this week.
Hi, my name is Jordan, aka Unique Perspective, and I'm glad I got on the podcast today instead of the SUNY Cortland Jordan.
Hello, I'm JJMan920, aka Jason, and I got an A+ in lineup writing.
And I'm Nick, and I'm celebrating football in March.
You probably know what we're going to be talking about today based on those introductions. Then again, when we've had past ones, we haven't talked about the winter weather or anything like that. So maybe it's a bait and switch. Before we delve into today's episode of The Price is Right, they started doing something this week. They changed the set of the show. And normally when they change an aspect of the set of The Price is Right, people just kind of shrug it off. It's a pretty major change this time, though. They have put large LED panels all along the back and side walls where the audience sits. And sometimes they are alternating blue and orange, sometimes they alternate blue and yellow. And eventually what you will see are Goodson-Todman asterisks splayed on top of those as well in a myriad of colors. A lot of divisive opinions about this. I will start off the debates today with, do you like the change that they're making? Or, if you don't, what should they have done, if anything, to make it better?
I guess the way that I view it, I don't necessarily have too much of an opinion one way or the other. I'm not someone who tends to watch The Price is Right for the set. Really, I watch mostly for the games. So the way I see it, with the changes of the set, I just saw the set as an apple that they turned into an orange. And I think one's a perfectly fine apple, and I think this is a perfectly fine orange for... I feel like they were going for an even more retro feel with this in kind of a modern way, if that makes it all sense. And I could see that working. I don't know if it's my personal cup of tea, but I think it could be another viewers or something like that. So I'm okay with it, but honestly, I don't really think about it too much.
I found it to be rather jarring when I first saw it. The reason that they did this is because you see the audience section when the show starts, but also because one of their, major card games is played with the audience as a backdrop, and they sometimes play other games in front of the audience as a backdrop. So adding this, making it a little more bright, a little more visual, I can see why they did it. I felt that it was a little too bright, a little too busy, but at the same time, I feel that it fits with the rest of the set that they have. It kind of makes sense with what they're going with. And so for that reason, I don't hate it like some people might hate it or dislike it greatly. I don't dislike it. I'm a little iffy, but I think it could grow on me with time. And I really do like the asterisks there. I think that was something you might have seen perhaps on a show in the 70s, not the LED part, but perhaps large asterisks in the audience to, sprinkle around and garnish the audience section. So I felt that that's a good addition as well.
Personally, I think what we saw today on the college special with the Goodson-Todman asterisk and the dark Starry Night curtains, it looks fantastic.
I hated the LED monitors when we first saw them. Didn't know why, but after seeing them it's because they had the orange on there, and they've really taken the effort in the past couple years to eliminate orange as one of the primary colors on the show. They replaced it in Contestants Row with the yellow color. And you don't really see orange that much anywhere else in the show. You don't see it on Plinko, where you're having your red and your magenta and your cyan and whatnot and yellow. You don't really see it in that many games, so I felt like it was out of place, and there were too many colors floating around the set at the time. Changing that to the more subdued yellow that they have now, I like it a little bit more. I'm still not a fan of the asterisks that seem to be strewn about with no real rhyme or reason to it. It's just it looks like that they had a leftover box of props in the back and they had to make room because they were cleaning. So they was like, oh, just throw them up on the walls. We'll see what happens. JJ had mentioned card game as a game where the audience is the backdrop. Interestingly, we haven't seen them do that yet. Do you think that they're going to make those monitors say something relevant to the game? Because when we have like double prices in front of the row this week, we didn't get anything like that.
I don't know if they're necessarily going to say something. Like, I don't see a wall of text on the monitor as the way to go to get the image. Maybe you could just have something like the Carrie's Card Club logo on the monitor, or if the game is an official logo.
But see, I feel like that'd be overkill.
If they have the ability with these LED panels around the audience to put actual images up on them, if they played card game, I figured why not just vertically put the symbols of the different suites, diamond, club, spades,
Suites?
and hearts. The different suites of cards.
I've never heard them referred to as suites. They're suits.
Suits, suites. They're spelled almost the same way, right?
It's one letter off.
One, right? Okay.
I mean, to me, they just look like they're there to display one color, and that's it. I mean, they might be able to change the colors during the show, but that's about it.
As they do more games with the audience, do you think they'll test different images on the monitor, different ways of displaying the monitor to try to make it work with the game? Or do you think they'll just try a plan for now and stick with it for, say, the rest of the season or something like that?
With time, I think they'll have more. I wish that I don't know why they're adding them now instead of at like the beginning of season 45. We're in the middle of March. I can't find a good reason to throw them in now. Have them at the beginning of a season. Have them for like Dream Car Week or Big Money Week. Having a one-off special on a Friday is not really an opportune time to start changing the set as much as they did. I guess that's the main thing that confuses me, is why this part of the season.
Well, you see, what happened is they didn't have any money at the beginning of the season because everybody was winning stuff. So now they've got to, they're starting to balance it out. People might not notice it, but there's a little bit more losing going on now than there was earlier, and that's good for the budget. And so maybe they have a little extra now to work with to do this.
Then they go ahead and do stuff like today's show where they're just throwing out money left and right.
I don't know. Maybe they're just coming into some extra money. Maybe CBS gave them an advance on their primetime specials, and they were like, oh, we can use it for a little bit of this.
Now, did these tape before or after the primetime specials?
These were definitely before.
And these panels are... Yeah, so these panels, maybe they're meant for the primetime special. And it's not like they're going to take them down.
The only thing I wonder is, it seemed like that they were airing episodes that the set was actually transitioning from the older version to this version. I don't know if that worked. Why not just have an episode with the complete new set?
Well, see, what I'm curious about is that this episode was taped much later than the episode that aired today, Friday, was taped later than the episodes that aired earlier this week. So I'm wondering, when next week's shows start, will we have the asterisks, or will we be back to just the panels like we had this week?
I hope we get one asterisk a day added to what's already there. Another new episode. Dunk. I'm done.
Actually, next week's episodes are back like 2 months before, so we are not going to see the panels.
Oh, so the panels are just gone. This
Yep.
is the preview week, and that's it.
Yep.
Red herring for the April Fool's episode, everyone.
Yeah, except April Fool's. That was taped a month ago.
This was like the preview day of the Macy's one-day sale or something like that.
Right? Come on in. All right, now get out.
Still a
We're
better
changing it
movie
back.
than Batman v Superman.
That's true. Way to be topical, Jordan. That wasn't forced at all. Anyway, let's talk about today's episode, the College Rivals Special. The first time we've ever had this special on the show. And for some reason, I'm not entirely sure why they decided to mess with the format of the show. They called down the first 4 contestants. The contestants in the red and blue slots in Contestants Row are from rival schools, UNC and Duke. The contestants in the yellow and green slots in Contestants Row are from a different pair of rival schools. Now, they have the item up for bids. They bid normally. The contestant that wins the item up for bid gets to come on stage. The rival contestant from the rival school I'll spoil it. For the first one, the Duke contestant won. The UNC contestant had to go back to his seat, left the row entirely, didn't have a chance to bid on anything else for the rest of the episode. Furthermore, when this Duke contestant played her pricing game, if she won her pricing game, that's great. If she loses her pricing game, that rival who got sent back to his seat gets $1,000 for doing nothing because the other contestant lost. Where do we begin? Because
I remember back around the time Roger Dobkowitz left on the forums, and there were rumors from, I think, Voltron about Voltron being a user who's been to several tapings.
there aren't actual colored lions on the forums
Yes.
that I know of.
But no, this user Voltron had posted rumors about how Sid Vintage, who was executive producer at the time, and how he wanted something more cutthroat, and everyone was yelling at that. Now I think we see why the cutthroat doesn't work. I don't necessarily mind competitive. I don't mind one-upping. I don't care about, like, the 10-year-old girl telling the person to go over. I don't necessarily care about competitive. I care when it's this cutthroat and it gets in the way of an overall friendly spirit. The fact that one can actually eliminate someone, and that from the audience, you could actually be encouraged to give someone the wrong answer, that is something to me that tips me over the edge of it and just says, okay, we're getting way too competitive here.
Jordan brought up the exact point that I wanted to make. If that UNC contestant, I'm just using the examples from the first pair of schools that we had to deal with. If that UNC contestant had a large following, if more people came from his school than Duke for that contestant, you could rally people in the audience to give that contestant the wrong answer and get $1,000 for it. And that completely goes against the whole spirit of the show, because since the show began, the audience shouts out answers. As far as I know, no one's really trying to sabotage another contestant as they're on stage, because everyone likes to see other people win. Now, you're actively promoting an environment where the audience wants a contestant to lose.
Now, as I brought up as a counterpoint, the Duke contestant on stage, the UNC contestant were all made aware that if the Duke contestant loses, that the UNC contestant would get the $1,000. In that instance, if I am the Duke contestant, if I'm the Duke contestant, I'm not going to look for any advice from anyone who is wearing a UNC shirt, and especially the person who is from UNC, because of course they want me to lose. Now, that being said, the person that was from UNC could still have a following from other people from other schools, so that still could backfire. But I think that the Duke contestant does realize at that point, can't trust everybody out there when they're asking me, when they're telling me which number to pull. So I felt that someone said it well online somewhere, that this worked probably better on paper, but just seeing it now, it's just something. The Price is Right is already inherently cutthroat. One-upping in contestants row, some people don't like that. Like, that's something that could cost someone a chance to get on stage. You already have that. You don't need to make it any more competitive than that, in my opinion. So something, I agree, does not sit right with sending someone completely back to their seat, because that was the one lone, shining bright spot to Contestants Row, is maybe if you got one-upped or something in Contestants Row, that perhaps, unless you were the ninth player called, you got a second chance at least to get back up on stage. This pretty much turns it into the 6th one-bid round all the time, and it was a little too much. I appreciate that they were trying. Listen, you have college shows with college kids wearing college sweaters. it gets repetitive. I understand. That's all Wheel's going to ever do is have a college week with kids in sweaters. All Jeopardy's ever going to do is have a college tournament with kids in sweaters. So I appreciate them trying to do something different. This was just a little too much for me.
Do they need to do something different with College Week? Because we were talking about this similar with April Fool's shows. Is this something that needs to be changed?
I mean, it's just simply not possible, in my opinion, to try and do something different every different time with different groups of people. Just, nothing's wrong with just saying and allowing a group of people to have fun on the show. You don't have to always try and make things different. That's just the way things are. Things are going to stay the same. Your life, in certain ways, is going to just remain the same. You can't change it. Maybe you want to try doing Pilates in the shower to make the shower more interesting. You can go ahead and do that. You're still going to be taking a shower, and regardless, you're still going to be washing yourself. So there's just not much you can do different in certain places. And so this happens to be one of those places where you can't really do much different.
The thing I think that has caused me the most distress over this rule change is it harkens back to something that I said last time, which is The Price is Right, episodes live in a vacuum, where you kind of know what you're going to get, and they assume that you've never seen the show before. The same rules are going to apply. I don't understand why they're changing the format of the show that's existed since the 50s even. We're going past the history of the new Price is Right. They didn't send somebody back to their seats in the 50s with Cullen if they couldn't get back once. They've never done this before. And I guess to me, it tampers with a key component of the show for no discernible reason other than let's just try to be different. It's kind of the same thing where Drew, the reason the game Make Your Mark is retired is because Drew messed up the rules. And rather than changing the rules to make them correct, the staff was like, oh, those are the new rules. And then they retired the game. And they're like, okay, we can't mess with this formula. Let's get rid of it. But now they're seeming to do that. And that makes me worry, what else will they change for a special? What other elements of the show that have been ingrained since the very beginning are they now willing to tinker with? Just because they can.
I'm not too worried myself, just because I still have complete faith in the folks that work on the show. I think they know exactly what they're doing. I think they knew what they were getting into when they did this. And I have to imagine, because we've heard Mike Richards talk about before, how sometimes he or sometimes a member of the staff was not on board with a theme show or something that they were going to do on the show as they went ahead and did it. And maybe perhaps he was overruled or something. So I think this is probably something that they had a long talk about. I'm sure it was not a unanimous decision. So I think I'm not worried for the future. I mean, take a look. They took the time to, again, throw around these asterisks all over the set. They don't exactly look like a, modern day thing. They still look like they're something out of the 70s, but they're willing to embrace their history. They brought back the old door frames last season. They're willing to embrace their history. So I'm just not fully worried over this, like some might be.
Price is Right in the Mike Richards era, I think has, to a certain extent, corrected things that they've considered to be mistakes. Like, things that weren't necessarily perceived well, like the oversaturation of guest stars like Jack Wagner, and inclusions of things like the Dolly Rots to make it feel more like a variety show. I feel like once they realized that was a mistake, they've somewhat corrected their course. And I hope they realize that if they see this as a mistake, that they can just sort of correct it or just learn from it, that they realize that this might not have worked.
That's true. Another thing that bothered me about this show is the fact that they only had rival schools go against each other. So if you happened to be there that day, not only did you have a chance, you didn't even have a chance to get picked unless you had a rival college. So if you went to a D2 or D3, sorry, and they had to be there. So either they had a casting call and you knew that someone from your group of friends was absolutely going to be called because they were calling 14 different schools, 14 different contestants, I don't like when they have something like that. When they know what category of the audience they're going to cull a student from immediately. It kind of makes the whole idea of the show where I know it's not random contestant selection, but it seems like it is, and the idea is anybody could be picked. And I didn't get that. It felt like they knew who they were going to pick right away before the audition process even began, because the only thing that mattered is what school they came from, as opposed to having a good contestant on the show.
If I recall, I had heard or read something that there was actually a group of Harvard students or Harvard alums from Southern California who gathered to head over. So, and I think the Alabama contestant, I think there were some other Alabama people. It's not like one person from each school showed up. They still had to pick the best contestants from each school. But I agree with you in that talking about things that don't necessarily need to be fixed. Why college rivals? Why not just have a college week where you can showcase different schools, have the competition be in contestants row as usual?
The other thing that gets me is, I don't want to pick on the contestant at all, but one of the contestants on stage today, I believe it was the gentleman from Texas, significantly older than the other college students on the show. He gave a shout out on the wheel to his wife, his son. I mean, you can absolutely be married and have a kid when you're in college, but this man looked significantly older. I think he was either a grad student, maybe a professor, maybe the parent of a student in college. So I don't know how loosey-goosey they were with the college rival thing. If you were an alumni, were you considered eligible to be on the show? And in that way, that's kind of throwing out the whole idea of college. It made it almost seem like they couldn't get enough college students to be there, so they had to open that up a little bit. Furthermore, someone else mentioned that it's interesting that they had no Los Angeles area schools on the show when they tape right there.
Yeah, I found that odd. I will say, because I remember, and I'm trying to see if it's still there, and I don't think it is. I remember when they posted the ticket listings for this special, they made it a point that you had to give information, what school you were from and whatnot, when you submitted your request for a ticket. So they knew who was coming, and then from there, I suppose they did their standard selection procedure with the groups that they planned on picking. So it still kind of doesn't sit right, but I'm wondering if they perhaps weren't set in stone with which rivals they were going to put together until everybody got there that showed up. So I understand where you guys are coming from, but I think it was okay in that sense how they picked them. So it kind of reminded me of the military specials they would do sometimes when they would only pick one person from each branch of the military.
I also don't like that they spoiled what schools were going to be called and in what order on social media before the actual show. They gave the bracket and they're like, here are the rivalries, and they just went right down the list when they called them down. I don't know if the idea was to get people who went to those schools to know when they needed to tune in, but I thought that was weird. And they had a bracket and they're like, fill it out at home. You can't win anything, just fill it out at home.
I don't know if that bothered me so much because honestly, I sort of forgot about it by the time I actually watched the show. And it's not like you knew like which contestant from which school was going to get called on down.
One other thing, when we're talking about, do they need to mix up the college shows? Again, they don't need to, but there's one thing I forgot is that The Price is Right has 2 college shows a season. I completely forgot about that because they also have the Back to School special that airs in August or September. So I don't know if a solution would be perhaps to make the spring break special or the back to school special perhaps kids special as well, so that you can have a different style audience. But generally, these 2 specials have been just college kid specials.
Another thing that bugs me about this special is the stuff that they were offering. First of all, the lineup was complete garbage. Just not a lot of variety. A lot of games that only offered 1 prize. Second,
2 not par for a car.
What? Two pricing games for cars that are not normally for cars. Squeeze Play and Cliffhangers. Both of which we've seen already this season, and we're going to see a whole bunch more Cliff for a Car in about a month or so. So take that as you will. But taking out the cars, I feel like they're just giving away stuff that no college student is going to either want or accept as a prize. These kids are in school. No 20-year-old who has a year to go getting his bachelor's degree wants an 899cc, watercraft. They're not going to want a $6,000 pool table. They're not going to want necessarily, like, beach gear. I just feel like they're just giving away random stuff, and usually they try to mention and adjust the prizes to make it stuff that's pertinent for that, like you saw in like the Mother's Day special they'll give away, or the pregnant, whenever they have like engaged couples or soon to be mothers, they'll have like pregnancy stuff. The only thing that was like weird, the only theme that I saw really is in Cliffhangers when they had that for a car. The 3 small prizes were all car related items like a tire inflator and stuff like that. I just felt like that they gave away stuff that they know people are just not going to want, like the $17,000 trip to Bora Bora. The $6,000 pool table, like I said.
But listen.
You know what I mean, though. I know what you're going to say. You're like, but they do that all the time. Oh, because no one wants it then.
What I'm going to say is, but listen, they did give away all that stuff people don't want, but I know they gave away one thing that everybody, everywhere, no matter who you are, wants, and that is a one-wheeled Segway scooter. Yes! The Uniscooter. That's what everybody wants.
Where did that come from?
Right now.
Yeah, they're like, look awesome on campus. You're going to get your butt beaten up if you ride that around on campus. Especially because I went to school at the University of Connecticut. You know what a lot of college campuses have? Hills.
I think a college alum, I can attest to that.
And what people are going to see when you're running around on that thing, like, look at this jerk on a, what is this? You think that's a unicycle? Who do you think you are, a modern-day Marcel? No, get out of here.
JJ, you went to Frostburg for like 2 years. You don't count in this discussion.
I'm just saying.
No, but
you get my point. They're giving away random stuff. What college student? What are you going to do with a 2-person infrared sauna? Put that in the commons room? I don't think so.
That's going in the dorm. Just take out the closet. Bust into their room a little bit. Bust the wall into their room a little bit. Thanks.
I mean, I guess in all seriousness, to try to add some decorum to this, do you think that Price feels like they have to give away certain prizes at certain times, and maybe they save their flashier prizes for the special?
Yes, I think it has to do with sponsorships and how long they have that. This is the first Segway item I can ever remember being on the show, and it was dropped by name specifically. We've been seeing a lot of Marie Callender's pies on the show the past few months, and they also get their television advertisements during the commercials. And we've also seen the Marie Callender's pies as to the winner of this one bid goes a supply of pie. Here you go, fatty. I'm paraphrasing, obviously. But so what they can offer, I think, does have to do with they probably have blocks of when the sponsors have the time on there. Look at the cars that they're offering. This whole week, we've seen cars that we haven't seen either ever or haven't seen for quite some time because they've had a lot of the same vehicles over and over again. I can't tell you the last time we've seen a Mitsubishi Lancer on the show. It's been at least 3 or 4 months. So I think it has to do with when the sponsors give the money or the prizes at a reduced rate.
Sure.
That's true. I mean, I guess they felt they could get monotonous as they gave the same type of prizes over and over and over again. And the prize selection is one thing that they've been actively trying to improve upon. So while people might not need these things, they're going to hand them out anyway. And again, that could be the plan also to save money. Offer up the nice prizes. People don't have to take the prizes. If anybody didn't know, you're not required to take the prizes you win. They're not going to make you and force you to keep your prizes. So they'll have the nice prizes, and maybe if people can't use them, they will reject them, and the show doesn't lose any money that way.
That's true. But then they go and turn around. You know what I liked that they offered today? Sneakers. When's the last time they've offered regular shoes that everybody wants, as opposed to, stiletto heels, espadrilles? You're automatically alienating half of the contestants right there who are going to turn it down. If you're a college man and you get high heels, you're not going to accept that.
I mean, honestly, too, college females might not accept it either. I mean, listen.
Colleges have heels. They ain't walking around in heels.
We've all been to college. no one's going to class in heels all the time. Not every female goes to class in heels, so.
And those that do only usually last a semester or two.
So I felt that was a really great prize for them to offer. So
Other than the contestants, it never really felt like a college special. And I don't know whether that's a pro to make it feel like a normal show or a con for not embracing the special. I'm actually not sure which one that is.
Only 2 of the 6 contestants who were called back to their seats because they lost their one bid received $1,000 because it was a 4 for 6 show. Now, what interests me, we didn't know that was going to happen. Hypothetically, what happens if they played Plinko or pay the rent and they only had $10,000?
I think
what's a loss?
I think that's what led to the lineup that we got today. Also, is that all of these games, for the most part, as a matter of fact, I think all of them are straight win-loss games. I don't think there's a partial in any of these games.
I mean, squeeze play doesn't have a partial. Yeah, everything is cut and dry.
Yeah.
You win or you do not win.
So that was part of the reason why they probably made the lineup the way they did. They knew that they couldn't start to quibble and quabble over what is this a winner or is that a loss and whatnot.
Contestant won the first 2 prizes on cliffhangers. She won something. You're shafted out of that $1,000.
But what they'll do, they could have done what you call it. If they played race game, they're like, the contestant won 2 prizes, so you'll get $500 out there in the audience.
But the point I was going to make is that it's interesting that the 2 contestants who won that $1,000, the contestants who knocked them out that made it on stage, won $2,000, $1,000 each on the big wheel.
Yes, that is true. The 2 losers both did well.
So they got their redemption.
$1,000 everywhere. It's a $1,000 special.
It's a $1,000 asterisk.
Yes.
Just toss them around. So we have some mixed feelings on this special. Obviously, leave a comment as to what you...
I would say all negative at this point.
I'm trying to paint some sort of bright spot over this, but...
We need a bright spot if we all think it's bad.
This is true. But let us know what you think. Is there anyone out there who likes this special? Did you like the fact that it was about the basketball March Madness games and they had football helmets on the display? And they didn't really mention basketball that much apart from having a trip to the semifinals of March Madness and the finals. So hope your team makes it, Duke. But before
listen, I'm sure we're going to find some people who like this show, just like we're going to find some people who like Batman v Superman. Out in theaters now.
You're going to make it sound like we're sponsored. So, did you like this episode? Then pick up this $14 Loot Crate, why don't you? We are not sponsored by Loot Crate. I think Loot Crate's dumb. Anyway, before we go ahead and wrap up the episode, there is something we need to make, which is a correction that we had to the prior episode. You may recall when we were talking about the pyramid rules that they released, how they had 50 seconds for the Mystery 7. And that was a typo. That's not true. It's not our fault, so I'm not saying I'm sorry. We didn't know. It wasn't our fault.
Right?
It's 30, right? It's still 30.
About it. It's still 30, but everybody was talking about it, so it's their fault. They had the typo, but it is not 50.
Are there any odds and ends that anyone wants to mention before we go ahead and end this episode? I'm sorry that this one was all about price, but we had a lot of stuff we had to get off our chests regarding today's special.
I first off want to say rest in peace to Joe Gargiola, who, if you don't know, he was a baseball player for 9 years. He grew up with Yogi Berra in the same neighborhood, and he went on to be a baseball commentator for years and years and years on NBC. A lot of older people remember him from weekly games that they did. But in the game show world, he hosted, I think, about 3 or 4 game shows. A couple of good ones, too. He hosted He Said, She Said, which was the precursor to Tattletales. He took over for Gary Moore for the last 2 years to Tell the Truth. He hosted the first ever iteration. I don't know if he was the first host of the first ever iteration, but he was one of the hosts of the first ever iteration of Sale of the Century. And he had his own game show called Joe Gargiola's Memory Game, which I should probably look up because I don't know how that was played. But he passed away at the age of 90. And from the looks of it, everybody loved Joe.
So much so that we don't have an awkward in memoriam segue like that Charlie 2-1, but... But no, I guess the other thing I was going to talk about is the daytime Emmy nominations just came out. I think it was today or yesterday. When we
Yesterday.
recorded.
Yesterday.
And the one thing I found interesting is Monopoly Millionaires Club getting love, both for Best Game Show and for Billy Gardell hosting. And I'm positively surprised by it. I didn't think it got that much attention in the press, but I like the show. I like Gardell's hosting. So
And
good for them.
out of the 3 game show categories there are, Price only got a nomination for one of them, if memory serves, correct?
Yes, and that's partially, well, they didn't get a nomination for directing, and Drew Carey does not like awards, so even if they think Drew Carey might have had a good hosting season, or hosting, the front one episode they submit, a good hosting, Drew Carey does not like to submit for awards, so Price only got just Outstanding Game Show.
Do you think it'll win?
Well, I think it was a big surprise when it won a couple of years ago, and so based on who's nominated now, I think it has a shot, but Jeopardy is always the perennial favorite, so.
I think it has a shot. My gut says Jeopardy's going to win.
I mean, I will say The Price is Right has been doing amazing programs these last few years. So whatever they submitted, I hope they submitted a good one. I hope they submitted the perfect show from the second week of this season with the 3 strikes one. They've had some amazing shows these last few years, so hopefully they submitted a good one.
And when are the daytime Emmys again?
They are. Let me find out. They will not be televised.
Womp womp.
So if you're looking to find them, they won't be televised. And I don't know if they're going to even be.
They're not televising the daytime Emmys. Who's hosting them? Bernie Sanders?
I don't even know if they're going to stream them at all. But they will be on Sunday, May 1st.
May Day. Not
May
Mother's
Day.
Day. Mother's Day's the 8th.
Don't panic. I didn't get a gift.
Mother's Day's always
Well,
the
I'm going to
second.
get you a Price is Right daytime Emmy win.
But that's about going to wrap things up for this episode of Contestants Not Appearing on Stage. Thank you once again for tuning in and listening to us yell at each other about points that we want to make. And we will hopefully be back next week with some more podcasts. Until then, this is Torgo on behalf of everyone else, and we will see you later. Go Mario and Wheel of Fortune! Thanks for tuning in to Contestants Not Appearing on Stage, part of the Torgo Entertainment Network. For more episodes of Contestants Not Appearing on Stage, check us out on YouTube or online at CNAOS16.net.
No.
Of course, Apple is trying to call me during the podcast.
Did you answer during the podcast?
No.
What do they want, a sponsorship? Pick up!
I could have mentioned that too.
No. To fix my
mentioned-
neck.
Why
I
did-
mentioned-
yeah, I was going to say, Nick, you could have gotten their sponsorship mid-segment.
We mentioned Batman v Superman and Loot Crate. We might as well add Apple in.
And Apple probably actually makes money.
Like, enjoy your Loot Crate while you watch the exclusive Blu-ray copy of Batman v Superman on your brand new Mac computer. Get it all today.
I'm going to pass
Even though
this
they don't come
showcase to the
Blu-ray
other
drives,
contestant,
then.
JJ.
Okay.
I'm going to bid $3,000. Thank you.
Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Batman v Superman's with it. I'm only going to bid $3. Thanks.
But Torgo, you should have passed because your showcase is just the one-wheel scooter.
Oh.
At least you can exact that.
What? I forget how much it is. 1,000.
You can exact that. Just read the recap and memorize.
This is true.